Okay, so this is the Daf Yomi for Erev Shabbat, April 18th, 2025. We're in Makkos 10, and that reminds me of the song that my son likes to watch now. 10 Makkos 10. The mitzvahs are punished again and again. I'll put it in the description for you guys, or in the comments. You guys can see that. Anyway, it says, therefore a greater number. We're in Makkos 10. Okay. Amud Aleph. Therefore, a greater number of cities of refuge per capita were required there. As it is written, Gilead is a city of those who work iniquity. It is covered, or akuba, with blood. Hosea 6:8. What is the meaning of covered, or akuba, with blood? Rabbi Elazar says it means they would set an ambush, okvin, to kill people. The Gemara asks, and what is different about the cities of refuge closest to the border on this southern side of the country and from the border on that northern side of the country that are distant 1/4 of the length of Eretz Yisrael from the border? And what is different about the city of refuge in the middle of the country, which is relatively close to any potential murderers? The maximum distance that one would need to travel to reach the middle city is 1/2 the distance from the northern and southern borders to the respective cities of refuge. Abaye said, murderers are also common in Shechem, as it is written, and as troops of robbers wait for a man, so does the band of priests. They murder in the way toward Shechem. Yes, they commit enormity. Hosea 6:9. What is the meaning of the band of priests? Rabbi Elazar says it means that the people would band together to kill people like those priests who band together to distribute teruma among themselves in the granaries. The Gemara asked him, and are there no more cities of refuge beyond these 6? But isn't it written, quote, in the cities that you shall give to the Levites, the 6 cities of refuge you shall give for the murderer to flee there, and beyond them you shall give 42 cities. Numbers 35:6, indicating that the status of all the Levite cities is that of cities of refuge. Abaye said, with regard to these 6 cities designated specifically for this purpose, unintentional murderers in need of refuge are admitted there, whether they entered the cities deliberately, aware that they are cities of refuge, or whether they entered inadvertently. By contrast, with regard to those 42 Levite cities, unintentional murders are admitted only if they enter the cities deliberately, but if they enter the cities inadvertently, they are not admitted to the cities. The Gemara asks, and is Hebron a city of refuge? But isn't it written, and they, quote, and they gave Hebron to Caleb, as Moses had spoken, Judges 1, verse 20. This indicates that Hebron belonged to Caleb from the tribe of Judah, and it was not a Levite city. Abaye said its suburbs were given to Caleb. The city itself was a city of priests, as it is written, in the context of the distribution of Levite cities. And they gave them Kiryat Arba, which is Hebron, and the field of the city and its courtyards they gave to Caleb, son of Yefuneh. Joshua 21, 11 through 12. The Gemara further asks, and is Kadesh a city of refuge? But isn't it written, quote, in the fortified cities were Zidim, Zer, and Hamath, Rakath, and Kinneret, in Kedesh, in Edrei, and in Hazor. Joshua 19, 35 to 37. And it is taught in Braita, with regard to these cities of refuge, one does not establish them in small settlements, or tirim, or in large cities. Rather, one establishes them in intermediate-sized towns. Apparently, Kadesh was a large fortified city. Rav Yosef said there were 2 cities named Kedesh. That's slightly vowed differently. And the one listed among the fortified cities in the book of Joshua is not the one that was a city of refuge. Rav Ashi said the listing of Kadesh among the fortified cities is not difficult, as it is similar to the 2 adjacent yet separate cities of Silikum and the fortification of Akra of Silikum. Likewise, there was the fortified city of Kadesh mentioned in Joshua, and the city itself, which was an intermediate city that served as a city of refuge. The Gemara discusses the matter itself and its cities, and it cites the complete Braita. With regard to these cities of refuge, one does not establish them in small settlements or in large cities. Rather, one establishes them in intermediate-sized towns, and one establishes them only in a place where water is available. And if there is no water available there, as there is no spring accessible from the city, one brings them water by digging a canal. And one establishes them only in a place where there are markets, and one establishes them only in a populated place, where there are many people who regularly frequent the town. If the population of the surrounding areas diminishes, one adds to it. If the number of residents in the city of refuge itself diminishes, one brings new residents to the city, among them priests, Levites, and Israelites. The Baraita continues, and one may not sell weapons or hunting tools in the cities of refuge to prevent the blood redeemer from gaining access to means that he could exploit to kill the unintentional murderer who fled to the city of refuge. This is a statement of Rabbi Nehemiah. And the rabbis permit, meaning the majority, permit selling weapons and hunting tools. And Rabbi Nehemiah and the rabbis agree that one may not spread nets in the cities of refuge, nor may they braid mafshilin, ropes in those cities, so that the foot of the blood redeemer will not be found there. And if the blood redeemer were to enter the city of refuge to purchase nets or ropes, he's apt to encounter the murderer and kill him. Rabbi Yitzchak says, what is the verse from which these matters are derived? It is written, quote, and he shall flee to one of the cities and live, Deuteronomy 4:42, meaning perform some actions for the unintentional murderers so that life in the city of refuge will be conducive to living for him. And all these steps are taken to facilitate that objective. The sages taught, in the case of a student who was exiled, his teacher is exiled to the city of refuge with him, so that the student can continue studying Torah with him there, as it is stated, quote, he shall flee to one of these cities and live. From which it is derived, perform some actions for the unintentional murderer so that life in the city will be conducive to living for him. Since Torah study is an integral component of his life, arrangements must be made to ensure continuity in that facet of his existence. So Rabbi Zera says, from here one learns that a person should not teach a student who is not fit, as that may result in the teacher following the student into exile. Rabbi Yochanan says, in the case of a teacher of Torah who was exiled, his school is exiled with him. The Gemara asks, is that so for a teacher of Torah is exiled? But doesn't Rabbi Yochanan himself say, from where is it derived that matters of Torah provide refuge? That is, that the blood redeemer may not harm one who is engaged in Torah. It is derived from a verse as it is stated, Betzer in the wilderness, in the flatlands for the Reubenites, and Ramoth in Gilead for the Gadites, and Golan and Bashan for the Menashites, Deuteronomy 4:43. In the list of cities of refuge designated by Moses, it is written, therefore, quote, and this is the Torah, Deuteronomy 4:44. Based on that juxtaposition, it is derived that the status of Torah is like that of a city of refuge. The Gemara answers, this is not difficult. Lakashya. As this statement of Rabbi Yochanan that the status of Torah is like that of a city of refuge is referring to Torah at the time that one is engaged in its study, and that statement of Rabbi Yochanan that the teacher of Torah must take his school to the city of refuge is referring to the teacher of Torah at the time that he is not engaged in its study. His mere presence in a city of refuge provides him with continuous protection. And I want to point out, because I was listening to a Breslov reading earlier today, I think it was in Eruvin. I don't remember the exact location, but he was talking about that a high priest is typically not allowed to go outside the land of Israel, but he's permitted to go outside the land of Israel to marry or to study Torah. And I thought that was very interesting. It's kind of apropos to this thought here. So continuing, if you wish, say, what is the meaning of Rabbi Yochanan's statement that matters of Torah provide refuge? It means protection, but not for an unintentional murderer from the blood redeemer. Rather, it means protection from the angel of death. This is as it was in this incident where Rav Chisda was sitting and studying in the study hall of Rav, and the agent of the angel of death was unable to approach him and take his life because his mouth was not silent from his study for even a moment. The agent ascended and sat on a cedar tree of the study hall of Rav. The cedar tree broke, and Rav Chisda was momentarily silent, startled by the sudden noise, and the agent of the angel of death overcame him. Apparently, matters of Torah provide protection from the angel of death only when one is actively engaged in their study. Rabbi Tanchum Bar Hanilai says, for what reason was Reuven privileged to be enumerated first in the rescue as the first city of refuge listed is Betzer, see Deuteronomy 4:43, which is located in the tribal portion of Reuven. It is due to the fact that he began to rescue of Joseph first, as it is stated, and Reuven heard and delivered him from their hands. Genesis 37:21. Rabbi Simlai taught, what is the meaning of that which is written? Then Moses separated 3 cities beyond the Jordan to the east of the sun. Mizracha Shemesh. Deuteronomy 4:41. The Holy One, blessed be He, said to Moshe, shine the sun, Hazrach Shemesh, for murderers. That is, provide them with the hope of rescue. Some say that God said to Moses, in designating the cities of refuge, you have shined the sun for murderers. So, on a related note, Rabbi Simlai taught, what is the meaning of that which is written, he who loves silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor he who loves abundance with increase. Ecclesiastes 5:9. He who loves silver shall not be satisfied with silver. This is a reference to Moses, our teacher, whose love of mitzvot was so great that although he knew that an unintentional murder would not be admitted to the 3 cities of refuge that were in the east bank of the Jordan until the 3 cities of refuge were in the land of Canaan were selected, and that his designation of cities of refuge would have no practical ramifications in his lifetime, he nevertheless said, when there is a mitzvah that has come in my way, I will fulfill it. And that's the way you're supposed to live your life. You're supposed to live your life with the mitzvah that comes in front of you. Do the mitzvah in front of you. The next phrase in that verse, so that's like referencing like when you got your tefillin and you reach into your tefillin bag, your tefillin box, and you go to pull it out and you happen to touch the tefillin shel rosh first. You put that one on first because that's the mitzvah that is in your hand, literally. So, the next phrase in that verse, quote, nor he who loves abundance with increase, is also interpreted as referring to Torah, for whom it is fitting to teach an abundance of people, one for whom all its increase belongs to him. That is, one who knows all the content of the Torah is worthy of teaching it in public. And that is identical to that which Rabbi Elazar says, what is the meaning of that which is written, quote, who can express the mighty acts of God or make all his praise heard? Psalms 106, verse 2. For whom is it fitting to express the mighty acts of God? It is one who can make all his praise heard. One who knows only part of it is unfit to teach the multitudes. The rabbis say, and some say, Rabba Bar Mari says that the passage, quote, nor he who loves abundance with increase, means whoever loves a Torah scholar who teaches in the presence of an abundance of people, to him shall be increase. That is, sons who are Torah scholars. The Gemara relates, when they heard that the interpretation, the sages cast their eyes upon Rava, son of Rabba, who loved Torah scholars who disseminate Torah, and he was blessed with sons who were Torah scholars. The Gemara provides a mnemonic for the ensuing interpretation of the second part of the verse cited earlier, Ecclesiastes 5:9. And this is Ashi to study, Ravina to teach. So Siman, Ashi limod, Ravina la'amed. Rav Ashi says, anyone who loves to study in abundance, that is, with many colleagues, to him shall be increased. That is, he will succeed in his studies. And that is parallel to what Rabbi Yoshi, son of Rabbi Hanina, says. What is the meaning of that which is written? A sword is upon the badim, vino alu. Jeremiah 50:36. It is fitting that a sword be placed on the necks of the enemies of Torah scholars, a euphemism for Torah scholars who sit and engage in the study of Torah individually, or bad bavad. Moreover, they grow foolish through their individual study, as it is written here, vino alu, and it is written there, quote, for we have been foolish, no alnu, Numbers 12:11. Moreover, they thereby sin, as it is stated immediately thereafter. And for we have sinned. If you say that from here it is derived that noalu means sinned, quote, the ministers of Zoan have sinned, noalu. Okay, Isaiah 19:13. Ravina says that there is a different interpretation of the verse cited earlier, Ecclesiastes 5:9. Anyone who loves to teach in abundance before the multitudes, to him shall be increase, as his Torah knowledge is enhanced through those lectures. And that is the parallel to which Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi says, much Torah have I studied from my teachers, and I have learned more from my colleagues than from them, and I have learned more from my students than from all of them. Apropos the virtue of Torah study, Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi says, what is the meaning of that which is written? Our feet were standing in your gates, Jerusalem. Psalms 122, verse 2. What caused our feet to withstand the enemies in war? It is the gates of Jerusalem, where they were engaged in Torah study. He interprets the term in your gates to mean because of your gates, the place of justice in Torah. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi says, what is the meaning of that which is written? A song of the ascent to David. I rejoiced when they said to me, let us go up to the house of God. Psalm 122, verse 1. David said before the Holy One, blessed be he, Master of the universe, I heard people who were saying in reference to me, when will this old man die? And Solomon, his son, will come and succeed him and build the temple, and he will ascend there for the pilgrimage festival. It was common knowledge that the temple would be constructed by David's successor. David continued, "And despite my pain that I am not privileged to build the temple, I rejoiced. The Holy One, blessed be he, said to him, for better is one day," this is a quote, "for better is one day in your courtyard than 1,000. Psalm 84:11. Meaning, I prefer one day during which you engaged in the study of Torah before me than the 1,000 burnt offerings that your son Solomon is destined to sacrifice before me on the altar. See 1 Kings 3, verse 4. The Mishnah teaches all roads were aligned for them from this city to that city. It is taught in a Braita that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, refuge was written on signs, Miklat was written on signs at every crossroads, marking the path to a city of refuge, so that the unintentional murderer would identify the route to the city of refuge and turn to go there. Rav Kahana said, what is the verse from which this is derived? Quote, prepare for you the road, Deuteronomy 19, verse 3, meaning perform for you preparation of the road. Apropos that halacha, the Gemara cites that Rav Chama bar Hanina introduced this portion with regard to the halacha of exile with an introduction from here. Good and upright is God, therefore he directs sinners along the way. Psalms 25, verse 8. He said, if he directs sinners by commanding the placing of signs, directing them into the city of refuge, it may be inferred, a fortiori, that he will assist and direct the righteous along the path of righteousness. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish introduced this portion with an introduction from here. It is stated with regard to an unintentional murderer. One who did not lie in wait, but God caused it to come to his hand, and I will appoint to you a place where he may flee. Exodus 21:13. Now this is puzzling. Why would God cause one to sin in this manner? The verse states, quote, as the ancient parable says, from the wicked comes forth wickedness. 1 Samuel 24:13. Evil incidents befall those who have already sinned. Reish Lakish explains, in this light, the verse, quote, but God caused it to come to his hand may be understood with regard to what scenario is the verse speaking. It is with regard to two people who killed a person, where one killed unintentionally while the other killed intentionally. For this person, there are no witnesses to his action, and for that person, there are no witnesses to his action. Therefore, neither receive the appropriate punishment of exile and execution, respectively. The Holy One, blessed be he, summons them to one inn, meaning like INN, one like lodging. This person who killed unintentionally sits beneath a ladder, and this person who killed intentionally sits beneath a ladder, and that person who killed unintentionally descends the ladder, and he falls upon him and kills him. There were witnesses to that incident, and therefore that person who killed intentionally is killed, and that person who killed unintentionally is exiled, each receiving what he deserves. Apropos the path upon which God leads people, the Gemara cites a statement that Rabba bar Rav Huna says that Rav Huna says. Some people say it was a statement that Rav Huna says that Rabbi Elazar says. From the Torah, from the prophets, and from the writings, one learns that along the path a person wishes to proceed, one leads and assists him. So this is an interesting concept here. I've always been kind of like curious about this portion of the Torah, so now we're going to get to the answer. If you've ever been curious about this, one learns this from the Torah as it is written, that initially God said to Balaam, with regard to the contingent dispatched by Balak, quote, you shall not go with them, Numbers 22:12. After Balaam implored him and indicated his desire to go with them, it is written, quote, arise, go with them, Numbers 22, verse 20, just 8 verses later. One learns this from the prophets as it is written, quote, I am the Lord your God who teaches you for your profit, who leads you on the path that you go. Isaiah 48:17. Indicating, and I've been arguing with people in the comments of some other videos about Isaiah, some of these exact passages right here, and I think it's hilarious that this comes up. But anyway, indicating that along the path that one seeks to go, God will direct him. One learns from this from the writings as it is written, quote, if one seeks the cynics, he will cause him to join the cynics, but to the humble he will give grace. Proverbs 3, 34, indicating that if one chooses cynicism, God will direct him there, and if he opts for humility, God will grant him peace. It's very interesting. Basically, the idea is that sometimes God will show us the path that he wants us to take, and if we don't take that path, he still goes with us along the path that we choose for ourselves. So just like Christianity, there's people in Christianity that, they're good people, and they're trying to do the right thing, but they want, and maybe to some degree need, that oddly emotional religion. But it's kind of, the same thing. You can say this for all kinds of other religions in the world. God is still there at some point, like with people. There's still things that happen to people that are divinely directed and things like that. But the closer you get to the source, it changes. Let's just put it that way. So the Gemara resumes its discussion of the halachot of exile. Rav Huna says, in the case of an unintentional murderer who was exiled to a city of refuge, and the blood redeemer found him on the way and killed him, he's exempt. The Gemara notes, Rav Huna holds that the verse, quote, lest the blood redeemer pursue the murderer and strike him fatally, and for him there is no sentence of death, as he did not hate him from before. Deuteronomy 19 verse 6, it is written with regard to the blood redeemer. So teaching that the blood redeemer is not liable to be executed for killing the murderer. The Gemara raises an objection to the opinion of Rav Huna from a Braita, quote, and for him there is no sentence of death. The verse is speaking with regard to the unintentional murderer, teaching that the unintentional murderer is not liable to be executed. That is why the Jewish people were commanded to establish cities of refuge to protect him. The Braita proceeds to prove that the verse is written with regard to the murderer. Do you say that it is speaking with regard to the unintentional murderer, or is it speaking only with regard to the blood redeemer? When it states in an earlier verse, quote, and he did not hate him from before, Deuteronomy 19 verse 4, it is clear that the reference is to the unintentional murderer, and therefore you must say that in the phrase, quote, and for him there is no sentence of death. The verse is speaking with regard to the unintentional murderer. The Gemara answers, Rav Huna states his opinion in accordance with the opinion of that following Tana, as it is taught in another Baraita, and the Tanaim are the sages from the Mishnah. And it states, and is taught in another Baraita, quote, and for him there is no sentence of death. The verse is speaking with regard to the blood redeemer. The Baraita clarifies, do you say that it is speaking with regard to the blood redeemer, or is it speaking with regard to the unintentional murderer? When it states, quote, as he did not hate him from before, the unintentional murderer is already stated, as that phrase certainly is referring to him. How do you realize the meaning of the verse? Quote, and for him there is no sentence of death. It is with regard to the blood redeemer that the verse is speaking. The Gemara continues here and cites additional proof concerning Rav Huna's ruling from the Mishnah. We learned in the Mishnah, and they would provide the unintentional murderer fleeing to a city of refuge with 2 Torah scholars, due to the concern that perhaps the blood redeemer will seek to kill him in transit, and in that case, they will talk to the blood redeemer. The Gemara asked, what? Is it not that the Torah scholars forewarn him that if he kills the unintentional murderer, he would be liable to be executed? That contradicts Rav Huna's opinion that a blood redeemer who kills the unintentional murderer is exempt. The Gemara rejects this proof. No, the statement of the Torah scholars to the blood redeemer can be explained as it is taught in a Baraita, and they will speak to him about matters appropriate to him. They say to him, meaning the blood redeemer, do not accord him treatment appropriate for murderers, as it was unintentional that he came to be involved in the incident. Rabbi Meir says the unintentional murderer too speaks medaber on his own behalf to dissuade the blood redeemer, as it is stated, quote, and this is the matter, davar, of the murderer, who shall flee there and live, Deuteronomy 19 verse 4, indicating that the murderer himself apologizes and speaks to the blood redeemer. The sages said to Rabbi Meir, many matters are performed more effectively through agency, through shlichut. Okay, the Gemara analyzes the Baraita. The master says, Amar Mar. The master says in a Baraita, it was unintentionally that he came to be involved in the incident. The Gemara asks, isn't this obvious? as if it were intentionally that he killed a person? Is he liable to be exiled? The Gemara answers yes. Even intentional murderers flee to a city of refuge on occasion. The Gemara continues, and so it is taught in Braita. Rabbi Yoshi, son of Rabbi Yehuda, says, initially, either one who killed another unintentionally or one who killed another intentionally would hurry and flee to the cities of refuge, and the court in his city would send for him and would bring him from there to stand trial. The Braita continues, with regard to one who was found liable to receive the death penalty for unintentional murder after the trial, the court would execute him as it is stated, and the elders of his city shall send and take him from there and deliver him into the hands of the blood redeemer, and he shall die. Deuteronomy 19, verse 12. And with regard to one who was not found liable to receive the death penalty, that is, if they deemed that it was due to circumstances beyond his control, they freed him as it is stated. Quote, and the congregation shall rescue the murderer from the hands of the blood redeemer. Numbers 35:25. With regard to one who was found liable to be exiled, the court would restore him to his place in the city of refuge, as it is stated, and the congregation shall judge between the murderer and the blood redeemer, and the congregation shall restore him to his city of refuge, that he fled there. Numbers 35:24-25. The Braita continues, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says the Torah does not command intentional murderers to flee to a city of refuge. Rather, the Torah is cognizant of the fact that in practice, intentional murderers would exile themselves on their own as they thought that they would be admitted to these cities, which would provide refuge for both unintentional and intentional murderers, and they do not know that only those who murder unintentionally are admitted to these cities, but those who murder intentionally are not admitted. Rabbi Elazar says, an unintentional murderer is not admitted to a city of refuge whose majority consists of unintentional murderers, as it is stated with regard to the intentional murderer who fled to a city of refuge, quote, and he shall speak his matters in the ears of the elders of that city. Joshua 20, verse 4, indicating that there is some novel element in the matters that he seeks to convey to the elders of the town, but not when their matters are equal to his matters, as those elders made the same statements when they arrived at the city of refuge as unintentional murderers. And Rabbi Elazar says, an unintentional murderer is not admitted to a city in which there are no elders, as we require the fulfillment of the verse, quote, and he shall speak in the ears of the elders of the city. Joshua 20, verse 4. And there are none. It was stated, a city in which there are no elders is subject of a dispute between Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi. One says an unintentional murder is admitted there, and one says an unintentional murder is not admitted there. The Gemara explains, according to the one who says that an unintentional murderer is not admitted to a city in which there are no elders, his reasoning is due to the fact that we require the presence of the elders in the city and there are none. According to the one who says that an unintentional murderer is admitted there, his reasoning is that he holds that speaking to the elders is merely a mitzvah, but it does not affect the city's status as a city of refuge. And a city in which there are no elders is subject of another dispute between Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi. As one says, one can become a wayward and rebellious son in it, and one says one cannot become a wayward and rebellious son in it. The Gemara explains, according to the one who says that one cannot become a wayward and rebellious son in it, it is due to the fact that we require the presence of the elders of the city, as it is written, and his father and mother shall take hold of him and bring him out to the elders of his city in the gate of his place. Deuteronomy 21, verse 19. And there are none. Accordingly, to one who says that one can become a wayward and rebellious son in it, the presence of the elders is merely a mitzvah. Okay, and a city in which there are no elders is subject of another dispute between Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi. One says, if a corpse was discovered proximate to that city, the inhabitants of the city bring a heifer whose neck is broken. And one says the inhabitants of the city do not bring a heifer whose neck is broken. The Gemara explains, according to one who says that the inhabitants of the city do not bring a heifer whose neck is broken, it is due to the fact that we require the presence of the elders of the city, as it is written, quote, and the elders of that city shall bring the calf down to a rough valley, Deuteronomy 21, verse 4. And there are no elders. According to one who says that the inhabitants of the city bring a heifer whose neck is broken, the presence of the elders is merely a mitzvah. And then Rabbi Chama Bar Hanina says, for what reason was the portion discussing murderers stated? And now that's the end of Daf 10. So, Chag Sameach, Shabbat Shalom, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to put that video, 10 Makkot 10, the Mitzrayim were punished again and again. I'll put that in the comments and not in the description. So, okay. Have a wonderful Hag, guys.